Hello Heather, and nice to meet you in cyberspace. Hopefully these videos will help you. I can preview your pages and look at your code at the same time. This will be video feedback for Milestone 1, but I'll also dip into this week's discussion board or peer review 4.1, leave a little bit of feedback there on your wireframes. Well, let me address the wireframes first, since that's probably what people will be interested in the discussion board. I see that you have the requisite 3 wireframes, and doing them by hand in paper and pencils is fine. That way you can actually generate, a quantity of them. In general, I like the wireframes where the navigation ranges close to the top. That way, and if you can make it so that it's always visible, regardless of how one scrolls, that would make it user-friendly. When it ranges down the side here, that's also okay, but this is really the most, the first viewed real estate is up the top here, particularly upper left. And I see you placed the logo there. I think that seems like a logical place for it. Now, there's no reason for these to all look alike. They're your websites, and so I encourage experimentation. I do caution you, though, from using up too much vertical space and having the viewer scroll. And I would err in favor of too few images rather than too many. Think about images that bleed across the page, perhaps. And depending on how you've characterized your client, do you want your website to reflect an ambiance, or should it reflect a lot of variety in the menu if it's a family-run or oriented place? Just things to think about and relationships to find between your journal of this week, which was defining your client and focus group, and also creating an interface that makes it easy for that target audience to use. Heather, I see the Heather, sorry to be so jerky in that delivery there. Here's your Milestone 1 submission. What I wanted you to know is that I actually go through the rubric fairly carefully. So if you wanted to open up the rubric, I usually go through category by category. The rubric for this, Milestone 1, it's binary. There's 2 questions asked. The first is, have you included a properly coded sitemap? And the second question is, do you provide evidence of file management? And I see that you have. Do you understand the nested nature of directories? I think, it's not so visual here. You might consider a diagram. I don't want to burden you with this, and you've met the requirements of the rubric, because you have provided me with evidence of file management, but also a nicely coded sitemap, which will become the basis of your navigation too, by the way. So you have met the requirements of the rubric. But still, a visual sitemap would be really good, I think, for everybody's understanding. Heather, this is great, and you've got it up on GeoCities, so good going. The rubric for inline styling, which is 3.3, is also binary. There's just 2 categories. One is, have you applied style and the corporate color to a head? And I see that you have. You've used Towns Red. I see the ample notation, meta note tags. By the way, I'm looking at your web page in Safari for the Mac. There's this neat feature up under Develop, which is one of the tabs, where you can view page source. And then that gives me this split screen with the code at the bottom and the preview at the top. It also gives me an idea of your website structure, your management, and I can see some public files. Although the best, if you ever have problems uploading and so forth, thing would be to give me your password to your GeoCities, and I can see how you've organized your files. But anyway, looks like you're doing just fine. One thing I need to note about GeoCities is that you'll see that there is this script that GeoCities places on your HTML, at least when you view it live like this, and it is simply meant to make your page searchable and viewable. So it's something that GeoCities puts on your page. The other thing that GeoCities put on your page, of course, is this little meta comment here that says hosted by GeoCities. Good going. You're getting things on and off the server, and you've been able to do some rudimentary styling. Heather, you have, I think, logically identified the demographics surrounding your client, 30s to 60s age range, so forth. And I like that you have given me or directed me towards search engine optimization for keywords, meta keywords. You'll learn about that in week 6, but it's never too late to add those. That's something you'll want to do to your website. Is think about words that characterize your client and to put them in a searchable area of your web page. And it's an extension of comments, meta comments, meta tags in general, things that the viewer can't see but are present on the page. You've addressed the idea of focus groups, and you've thought of some questions to ask, not only the focus group, but I think some astute questions to ask the client. There are other types of research, of course, to think about things that are under our noses, including the U.S. Census. There's Nielsen, and then there's, of course, Google Analytics. And I see you've offered us some links to some really nice okay, what is this? Okay, yeah, you've got the census there. Yeah, thank you for that, twice. And what is Claritas? I'll have to take a look at that. Anyway, great. Great offering of other resources and some for market research. Can you think of any technological tools that other than Google Analytics that I mentioned? And as always, the articulation of response is really good. I didn't see any errors. If you have any resources, you might consider citing them in future journal entries like this. Good job.